Today, we have with us Francesca, who's joining us from Florence, Italy, where she runs a makerspace. Hey, Francesca, welcome to the Be a Maker podcast. Please tell me a little bit about yourself and the makerspace that you run.
Thank you, and nice to meet you. Here we are in Florence. The makerspace I run is called LoFoIo. It's an association, and it was born from the former Fab Lab Florence. LoFoIo actually means I make it, and we
Oh, wow.
chose to write it as
Nice.
I O or 101010.
Oh,
we
very
wanted
cool.
we wanted to talk about the new technologies and the old arts and crafts that's typical here in Florence, Tuscany, Italy. We actually are in the former arts and craft artisan neighborhood in Florence. So this is a merging we tried to make between the new and old traditional technologies. Somehow we made it, but not in the way we were not in the way we were expecting.
Tell us a little bit more about that because I'm sure
Sure.
there's a connection to the local community as well and the history of the city. So tell me what you were planning and how you've evolved that is different.
Yes, it's 10 years now, so we have a
Wow.
little history running now. Huh? Okay. In the beginning, it was the three of us, hobby makers. We already were members at the Fab Lab Florence, and we wanted just a space for ourselves to do our projects. I was more into the self-building, self-restoration thing because I'm an
Okay.
architect and I come from building sites and from the ecological architecture. So I wanted to be able to fix, repair my stuff, my things, my house. And I wanted to bring everybody with me in the experience, learn and share this with everybody. The other two founders that at some point got away. I stayed alone at some point, pretty early, after 2 years from the foundation. They were more into robotics, one of them.
Hmm.
The other one was more into co-working spaces, and the three of us had on carpentry and woodworking. So we rented a former workshop of a restorator slash decorator because here in this side of the ancient town of Florence, every lot you find at the level of the street
Okay.
used to be a craftsman's workshop.
Wow. Okay.
Usually they were all carpenter or decorators or restorators, but all of them are closing.
Ah,
So we began renting one of those spaces. It was not abandoned, but it was closed,
okay.
and it's perfect for us. It was perfect for us. I mean, it's uptown, so you cannot come here with a car. You just come here by bike, but it's enough for us. And we lack of light because it's a medieval part of town,
Okay.
so streets are narrow and you have no windows. We
Okay.
only have one main window that it's also the door, the entrance, and
Okay.
the window are the same thing
The same
because the
thing.
craftsmen needed that to open everything and carry what they built. They
Hmm.
usually built furniture and stuff like that. So
Right. Right.
the solution was to open literally a full wall of the space,
Oh,
and
wow.
it's actually perfect for makers. In the beginning, we thought that Florence was full of people willing to share our tools like we wanted. And it
Uh-huh.
wasn't actually true
Okay.
because I don't know if it's a lack of time or something. I don't know. At some point, I began organizing classes. This is the switch. This is the trick. We were expecting many people to come just for the love of it, just for the
Right.
love of the tools
Hmm.
we thought it
Hmm.
was
Yeah.
common, and it didn't work. I began organizing classes, woodworking classes, and welding classes. In the first welding course, it was full of women because they
Wow.
were curious and nobody was willing to tell how you weld, how
Right.
you
Right.
build the structure out of steel.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
And It was just a game, but we began having a line of people wanting to take part in the classes because
Gotcha.
apparently nobody was teaching woodworking to hobbyists.
Yeah.
The only
Okay.
way here in Italy, at least, to learn woodworking is to get a full 3 years school, a professional school. But
Uh,
this is not the answer because if you already have a job or you don't want to make a life choice, you just want somebody to teach you how to make a joint,
right.
how to fix a furniture, something simple. It can
Yes.
fit in a weekend. You don't want to subscribe a 3 years course,
Correct.
right? In a
Yeah.
special school, in the special villa, in the outskirts of Florence. You don't need that. And this was kind of intuition based on my own needs because I was the first one curious about the tools, about the techniques, about sharing, and I didn't know anything. I was I was searching myself for someone willing to teach me how to build a box out of wood, for
Okay.
example. And I kept doing that because the classes kept being full of people, many people in the line asking. Before COVID, people came also from southern and northern part of Italy, from far away.
Okay.
Apparently, it was a need that didn't find a match in
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
places.
No, definitely,
It was
definitely
beautiful.
sounds like it.
Yes,
I'm
and we are
also I'm also very
please.
surprised about the fact that you had so many women. That's one of the things that is quite unique. I mentioned earlier that I used to run a children's makerspace. I started that makerspace because of my daughter, and one of the things that was unique about our makerspace also was that we had a lot of girls compared to other makerspaces, almost where there are 95% in some cases are men. So I think that's also very unique. So you think that was because you were one of the female founders, or you think that is something about how Florence is? Can you tell me a little bit more?
It's just my guess. Okay, this is me resonating with other people. This was
Uh-huh.
my point of view, my way to tell also the story because I keep a little lightness when I
Mm,
present, for example, a new class, a new course. It's basically done on with the talent I meet. I
hmm.
don't invent a course and then I search for the specialist. It's the
Okay.
opposite. I meet someone, I like someone, we share a passion. Someone, for example, teaches me forging.
Mm,
And
mm,
we build a course, we build a workshop out of that. So it's more meeting someone. Then
right.
you come to a point when you have to tell the story, present the class to your
Mm,
members.
right.
And I have a light way to do that. I come from the building sites. I know everything about safety
Right.
on the
Right.
workplaces, but I don't want to be that heavy. I take it seriously, but it is a game. And
Yes.
I use the same approach whether if we talk about video games, for example, for professionals behind video game making or professionals behind furniture restoration, the approach is the same. It's playful. It has to be playful. And I don't want to take myself too seriously. I want to keep playing and it's a be working. I think that this resonates with the curiosity that women keep here, at least in our context. Men don't want to admit that they don't know how to hammer a nail. They don't want to admit they don't know how to do that,
Right. Right.
or to fix a lamp, or to fix a table. A woman can say, I don't know how to do that, please teach me, because I keep asking my husband, for example, to fix the stair and he doesn't. I want to do that myself. So if you make a class out of a typical female technique, it can be crochet. It's full
Right.
of women and one man mathematician because he discovered the joint between coding and crocheting, which is full of mathematics out there, no? But out of this special one, you usually make a class out of of something female, like weavery, for
Mm,
example,
mm,
and women come. If you make something that's more specifically for men, women come because they
Right.
are curious, because we are always at a beginner level. We always welcome the beginners. We are always at entry level. So
Right.
you don't have to show anything. You are not supposed to know anything.
Yeah,
It,
there's no prerequisite knowledge. But one thing that you said, I completely identify with it because working with kids, you already know that they don't know anything. Keeping it casual, keeping it playful, keeping it game like. I have to make sure that I'm keeping them excited and happy and engaged and keeping it relaxed. So
yes.
I'm really excited to hear that that's been your experience as well, because my struggle with it over here was that when I was look at other maker spaces that were teaching, they were very much focused on the technical side. So they were like, oh, you want to learn CAD? Well, you need to learn the principles of geometry first. Or you
Yeah.
want to learn welding? Well, you need to know all about metals and gases and all the. And I was like, but we're not trying to build buildings or bridges. We're trying to build something simple, and we're trying to keep people excited. Yeah.
It's very resonating what you said, because it's full of meanings for me. For example, me myself, I'm an architect, so I'm supposed to be very expert in some field, but
Right.
you had to be to abandon your identity made out of notions. You're not your notions. And the other thing I would like to underline is that to keep to keep having fun, to keep a playful attitude, you have to be free to make mistakes. And it works for
Mhm.
adults, for kids, for everybody. Because apparently we are never allowed to make mistakes, nor in the school nor out of
More
school.
often.
And we keep with ourselves a sense of guilt. For example, for first class of pottery here in LoFoIo,
Uh-huh.
adults come, they make a little mistake, they break something. You're not supposed to be an expert. It's your first time here. Who do you think you are? The teacher in front of you is making pottery since 9 years. You cannot be better or good as she is. If you make a little mistake, it's okay. This is the place
Yeah.
where you can make
Yeah.
mistakes.
Yeah.
In the other room, I'm talking to you from LoFoIo 2, which is a former garage. In the other space, the workshop, the main one where we keep doing welding and carpentry, woodworking, and so on. The floor is full of blurs, drips of paint, and it has to be like that. You have to be free somewhere in your life. You have to be free to drop something, to make a mistake,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
make some dirt. We're
Makes
never allowed to make mistakes. So adults come here charged with guilt and responsibility, and they are never free to break anything. I already told you how I like to break things and how I like when the first prototype of something, and it can be 3D printing or a new furniture, a new piece of
yeah.
wood, whatever, when it doesn't work in the first place, when the prototype breaks or doesn't work, it's more interesting than a perfect one. A perfect one doesn't let you discover anything.
Yeah.
In the error, in the point of breaking, you can
Yeah.
discover many new things. At least you can ask yourself, why did it break here and not in
Yeah.
the other place? And it's full of answers. And you understand materials in the very moment when they break. And it can work
Yeah.
also for
I
an
agree.
organization, also with people, it works.
Shopping is a big thing. And one of the things that I had to impress upon a lot of parents sometimes, if you wanted to buy something, go to the store. Because if you want a perfect product in the first time, it's not going to be possible. I mean, this is made by a factory where there are people who are qualified, they have lots of experience, they're making this, maybe hundreds of these products in a single day. So the precision, the quality that that person can do and that factory can do, your child is never going to be able to do the first time. But what's important is not the end result, but learning how it is made. Like the process is
The
more important.
process.
Yeah,
You trust
learning
the
from the
process.
process. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. This
yeah.
is my motto actually. Trust the process. The
Very
process
good.
is
Okay.
much more interesting than the object itself, and somehow inherit the heritage of the artisans here. What gives
Mm,
sense to the artisan, to the art and craft tradition here in Florence, in Italy, is that the process and the confidence to materials and the proximity between the user and the maker. I keep telling that the maker is the person that has a concept, an idea, has a project, makes a trial, makes a prototype, makes the object, and then uses the object. So
mm,
it's a closed circle.
right,
A
right.
maker is not supposed to sell anything because it's the process that's interesting. And the fact that the process is of one person, you make something for yourself, or at least
Mm,
your family and your friends.
mm.
This short supply chain reduced to one person shortens also the feedback, and it's somehow also healthier, if you ask me.
Tell
It's
me a little bit
unique,
more. Why do you think it's healthier?
it's fragile, but it's healthier because I think that keeping yourself too safe or too far away from the
Mm,
consequences of your action is a form of alienation. We
mm,
need as human beings to take feedbacks from the surrounding, from the material, from the weather, to smell the things, to touch the things. The feedback is what keeps us alive and gives constant messages to our body and to our brains on where we are we doing well, are we well, and keeping yourself, it's also a social matter. If you keep yourself too safe from the consequences of your actions, at some point you lose yourself, you lose
right,
yourself.
right.
So, as an architect, I was a little tired, not to say bored, perfectly rendered projects and houses and buildings. How about making a chair, making a stool? Because you cannot lie. The stool stays or doesn't. And there is no render, there is no word that can save a bad made stool. The person that sits on the stool
Mm,
falls on the ground, and it's
right.
supposed to be me if I am a maker. So in the first place, for me, the making and the woodworking was, in Italian it's a bagno di verità. It was merging myself in a pool of truth.
Wow.
Running
Okay.
out of lies. I wanted something that it works or it doesn't work. I cannot lie. If I nail it good, if I glue it good, it stays. I
It's
cannot lie. There is
right,
no
right, right.
CAD
So,
or
so what?
Photoshop
I mean,
trick.
yeah, the evidence of your work is right in front of you. So, I'm really intrigued by how you are bringing life philosophy into making. Do you think there's some part of Italian culture or Florence culture that has impacted this?
I think we resonate a lot with the tradition of Renaissance, but nobody knows that because
Okay.
it's out of the shapes and the formality of Renaissance. It's more of of the process, because this thing of keeping together the aesthetic, the ethic, the meaning, the sustainability. Sustainability is about economics, relationship with resources. If you keep that all balanced, what you have is a nice day, good relationships, a good impact on the environment, and you have a renaissance. I mean, a healthy
Okay.
relationship with resources and people. I see that. I studied architecture here in Florence. Somehow, I think I have been breathing that. I don't think I have the good point of view to answer your question,
Okay.
also because I don't feel that we are not that mainstream, we are not that Italian, because here in our cultural context, our approach is not recognized.
Uh,
It's not normal. Usually, the makers here, the resident makers, are not Italian. I'm not Florentine, and I don't know
right.
if it makes sense anyway. But usually, our users are from the Netherlands or from
Oh,
Turkey or from the US, not Italian.
Okay.
I think at some point in the Italian culture, we broke the connection
Mhm.
between the handwork, the practical work, and the artistic one, the intellectual one. At some point, someone told that getting your hands dirty is not it's not a good thing. You have to
Right.
keep your hands clean. You don't have to put yourself in danger because
Sure.
handwork, hard work can be
Hard work. Yeah.
dangerous. And to keep yourself clean, you were supposed to make a career as an architect, as an engineer, as an attorney, or something. It's too much because now we come from decades of how do you say in English the opposite of evaluation of we gave a bad value. We got word. Sorry, I
Yeah,
missed the
you
word. I
feel
can
no, no, I
search for.
understand. When my kids went to school, how I ended up starting the makerspace was very much what you're saying. I was so disappointed that people were not making things. Like I didn't grow up in the US, I grew up in India. And when I was growing up, I used to see all these videos about people in the US where they work with their hands, fixing things, working on their cars. All of those were images that we knew. And I didn't grow up like that. um, you're kind of now saying the same thing in a completely different continent, in a completely different country. So generally, we have seen a trend in that where people uh, just imbibe the value that working with your hands was not a good thing. Not that, like I said, not that something like computer programming or any other white collar job is bad. It's just that just because that is good, that doesn't mean this is bad. This can be good and that can be good too. You can have
Yes,
two things that are
exactly.
good, and you can be excited about making with your hands as much as not making with your hands, I think.
Uh,
So
the thing is, in the US culture, I think that something that stayed is the pioneer culture, the self sufficiency
definitely.
thing.
Yes. Yeah.
While here, I was telling that I was welcoming a new intern today, which is always a special moment. And we were talking about the effect that LoFoIo makes when someone crosses here in the street. We are in a touristic city, so often you get the chance to be seen with the eyes of new people that come to Florence for many reasons, especially tourism, but also you have the chance to be seen from former inhabitants of the city that left for whatever. Often they look at you while you work, for example, whatever you're doing. For example, it occurred to me to be interrupted while I was making something delicate or dangerous. And they kind of don't have the perception of it. They just enter and make questions. I am sure it's because they are fascinated. It's wow, impressive. Everybody stops and takes picture of the main room in
Right.
LoFoIo.
Right.
And okay, I am glad you like it, but I'm not a statue. I'm not an actor. I'm
Yes.
not pretending to build or to cut a piece of wood. I'm cutting it.
Stay away.
Stay
Yeah.
away. And they come and they interrupt you in any phase of the work. Sometimes I have to close myself in. And this is something I've been observing so many times that I came to the conclusion that they kind of have an admiration for the handwork and the crafters, but with a distance. This is you.
Right.
This is not me. I will never be you. I will never get my hands dirty. This is you. Oh, how interesting. Can I take a picture? It's
Right.
fascinating. It's poetic, but this is not them. They will
Yeah.
never be
I
them.
think that is a problem because when you look at it from children's point of view, if you're a parent, what you want to do is you want to make your child resilient. Right? You want them to be
Eh,
problem solvers, and trying to do something, attempting to learn the process, and learning along the way to solve the small problems that come along is a life skill, right? It is something that you can apply to your own life. You used the word association earlier to describe how your maker space is. Does that mean it's a non-profit, a cooperative
exactly.
membership? Yeah, tell me a little bit more.
Oh, I would love a cooperative, but it's not.
Okay.
It's an association, so an elementary form of it. Because we try and keep it running just by sharing the expenses. Hey, people that work here get paid.
Okay.
Me as a president, I'm not paid, but when I am a teacher, I get paid. I get paid. I'm a freelancer also in other contexts and laboratories and workshops, so it somehow works. It's very important here not to ask for volunteering. This is a hard issue here. We chose to pay the professionals,
Okay.
not to ask for free works and
Right.
for volunteering,
Volunteering.
because at least here in Italy, we need that. We
Okay.
need that. We need to be paid. We need to reclaim to be paid as experts, as
Right.
architects, as
Right.
artists. And at least my generation never has the occasions to make a workshop with the kids in the museum for the municipality, but they expect you not to ask for money.
Hmm.
But behind every well done workshop, a pop one, a funny one that works with no strange things occurring and getting to the point and making everybody having fun,
Right.
there is a professionality behind. There is a good managing, a good organization, a good communication, and some expertise. I come from the building side, so I know a lot about safety. We cannot give it for free. I'm not retired. This is my profession. I began as an hobbyist, but it
Hmm.
was required for me to stay here longer and longer and to apply my professional skills to the next workshop and to the whole running of the makerspace. Otherwise, it would have been closed 8 years ago,
Closed it. Right.
way before COVID. I
Hmm.
chose to apply this professional approach to a hobby thing, to a hobbyist place, and it worked. So it's still an association, but you are free here to be a professional or a hobbyer. You just you can come just for a class and then disappear, and you can also try and use that as an incubator for your next creative project. For example, the Guido comes from the Netherlands, chose to live here in Italy. He wants to try and work as a carpenter, okay, as a
Hmm.
woodworker, and obviously he doesn't have the resources to open a whole wood shop himself.
Right.
So he is using LoFoIo's facilities and as an incubator. What is he? Is he a professional or a hobbyist? He is something in between. But the very thing, the thing that you have the possibility to use these facilities and the organization and the insurance and everything here enables people to make new creative careers or to make allies or to make new shared projects, new creative projects between people that otherwise couldn't meet. You cannot tax yourself and buy all the facilities you need. You don't know how your creative idea will evolve. And
Right.
here you can make the mistakes and you can meet also people that asked the same questions and got the answers, developed the answers in the same
In the
context.
same point. Yeah.
We all look at the tutorials on YouTube, but we are here in Florence, and the sawmill here gives you one kind of wood, not the kind of wood that you see from the influencer based in Australia. We have problem solving every day to do,
Hmm.
and a daily skill sharing that happens between us. And it doesn't matter if it's between the CNC expert and the forging expert. We have this approach that crosses every field. We have a basic approach to every
Right.
field, and
Right.
we do only basic things, but this allows us to merge everything and to make a constant contamination. If
Yes.
you are curious as a monkey, as I am, it's paradise. And you keep nurturing yourself, you keep learning every day from every person that comes from the
Hmm.
door. And we help each other, and there is no hierarchy, but
Yeah.
is no boss here.
Yes. There's
I'm the
no boss.
president, okay, but basically, I help people uh, realizing, making things true.
Right.
Making
Right.
creative projects. It doesn't matter. It's a span of a weekend or a whole internship. It doesn't matter. I
There's
can
no
be the
boss. Yeah.
teacher today and the pupil
Right.
tomorrow.
Do you think there is a certain type of maybe personality that is inclined to be a maker? Because for some people, what you describe might sound like very chaotic. Tell me everything about this process, so then I can go make it. What you're saying is that because your idea will evolve. So if a woodwork see somebody 3D printing, CNC, or metal forging, they might let me try that. They might be influenced by what's happening around them. So I feel like there might be certain personalities that find this creative chaos very exciting, but some people get turned off. What is your
Yeah.
opinion? You think that is true? You think there are certain personalities that work?
Well,
Maybe try to,
basically everybody.
yeah,
Basically everybody is a maker. I think that your questions is made of many questions.
yeah.
The point is, to me, first of all, are you a loner or a social one?
Okay.
This is the point.
Uh huh.
Because if you are a loner, you find yourself good in your garage, and you find yourself good sharing just the result of your experiments in a special group in Facebook. It's okay. This is
Mm.
different here. There is a lot of contamination, and it's supposed to be bodies, people
Right.
matching,
Right.
no
Yes.
encounters. So the other question is, okay, you don't have to contaminate. You can pick your own process and keep doing your thing in this place. And anyway, you can cross the work of other people, and it can be satisfactory. You asked who are the makers. For me, everybody is a maker. Well, here in Italy, we have a good tradition of cooking. Everybody at home cooks on a very high level. And isn't it making? I make
It
my
is.
own wood. And basically, everybody here is at one, at least, at most 2, 3 degrees of separation with my mother as does gardening, and I eat what she makes. And isn't it
Mm.
a short supply chain?
Yes.
We have that in the tradition. So the question for me is how much do I have to work to uncover the maker that's in you?
Yeah.
Because really everybody is attracted by this
Okay.
situation. But when they come in, the level of comfort and uncomfort begins unraveling. I mean, if you are willing to make mistakes, do the trials, use your spare time here, not so much money, it's just time you are investing and attention. Uh, the more attention you are inclined to give to a process, to a trial, to an experiment, the more maker you are.
You are.
If you
Yeah.
don't have time, people come here fascinated by the idea, the space, the people they meet here, and ask, so can you print a T-shirt for me? Okay, my answer is I have the facilities. This is the vinyl, this is the printer. I won't do that for you. I will do a workshop of initiation for you.
Right.
So you will be trained to the vinyl plotter, the cutting plotter. You will do your own T-shirt. Isn't it better? Because you can do a lot of T-shirts on your own. Wow, this is fantastic. What a nice idea. This is perfect. So I don't get it. How much do you want to print a T-shirt for me? Oh, this is the usual answer. You try and give the tools to the people, and the answer is between admiration but commercial again.
Mm.
Some of us cannot relate out of a commercial relationship. So the
Okay.
point for me, everybody's a potential maker. The point is, do you have time to spend here, and how much do you want to get your hands dirty?
Right.
And so the gap is cultural, but it's not a gap. I would say it's a veil. We
That's a
have
very,
to uncover.
yeah. That's a very poetic way of putting it. I appreciate you saying it that way. And I do understand that. You are right. Sometimes aha moments can happen for people who initially have some resistance or have a very, like you said, a commercial mindset. I also like cooking as a point of reference because people who cook, especially when they cook at home, they are already doing a form of making, and cooking food for humans is a very basic activity. So if that is something you're already doing, then you're a maker anyway. How many makers do you work with in a week, a month?
Wait,
Do
I
you
say goodbye to Manuela. The intern, she comes from sculpture, art, the art field. I'm
okay?
not an artist, but I'm so proud we enabled her to do something she was dreaming of the whole life. Experiments with a 3D printer, with Madonnas, blasphemy Madonnas. Weird bodies that resemble a Madonna. Not many people are inclined to welcome that in Italy, but I'm so glad she can do that. It's her artistic path,
Artist,
and
right?
she's using the 3D printer to do that. Okay, I think we will stay friends. I always stay friends with the interns. I will go out for a beer with someone that's 26 now or 24, and we have really the same. We have so much in common just for being makers and
Makers,
having
yeah.
having shared an experience here. I am a guide. I know when it's time to give some rules, but it's not authority. We help each
Yeah.
other. I'm just more experienced in some fields, but we can keep exchanging. And this is very also in the human way, let's say.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that. I'm sort of a similar age group. My knowledge and experience is older, but especially when you're talking to makers, there's definitely an openness. So you can share experiential knowledge with new technology and try to create something, right? It's a good way to and discover new things. I feel that's how I've progressed in what I'm doing. So it's a relevant point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the question I was asking you, tell me a little bit more about the numbers
Yeah.
of people coming in weekly, maybe monthly.
Total in a year of new members or members coming back are 200. It's not so many. You think it's a
No,
lot?
I'm referencing our local makerspace. Our local makerspace has between 35 to 50 members a month. Like that's who pay their dues. So that's the annual membership. So compared to
Uh,
that, you're actually bigger in that way. And there are some makerspaces here that have more numbers, but a lot of the maker spaces that at least I'm speaking with that are community based, they're generally small. So an average of 50 to 70 members is common. So your numbers is high, which is, I mean, it's a really good thing.
but it's not true. I mean,
Okay.
the
Okay.
resident makers, the makers that keep coming, are not that many. I mean
Okay.
that we ask to do the membership to become a member to every person that takes a class here, and we make classes almost every weekend out of the summertime.
Okay.
And if a woodworking class has 6 to 10 people attending, all of them are members, but you don't
Mm,
get to see them most of the times that they don't come back. I would love it, but
gotcha.
they don't come back. So we all of them are members, but we make a difference between plain members and resident makers. The
Mm,
resident makers are the ones that pay a monthly fee and they share, let's say the running expenses to keep the place running at the moment. And I'm counting to the two interns. It's seven of us, not so
right.
many as you see, but it depends on the orbit you look at.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. But no, that's a decent number. Looking forward, how do you think one, the overall makerspace movement will change, and second, do you think there is a different future for your makerspace?
The second question is easier for me because
Okay.
I don't think I have a proper point of view on the whole movement. I
Okay.
don't go to the maker fairs. I
Okay.
don't have time for the
All
maker
right.
fairs.
Okay.
I sometimes go, but I'm not that passionate,
Right.
and I'm more into going and visit other workshops that are not apparently makers, but we have something in common. So I don't think I am the right person to give an answer, but I will try anyway.
Sure.
At least in this context, in Italy, in Europe, community based associations that share tools and knowledge are very needed. especially for non-formal education, non-formal sharing of know-hows, because the formal education is doing its own job and ours is different. And I think we can help each other. And this is time for the non-formal education. And I think that Europe, the European Council, began giving money, addressing money to local experiments and
Okay.
bigger experiments, and to fund better the non-formal education. I think that someone got aware that this is the point. If you want to make a match between the brains and the hands, and you want to keep the European culture going on, the non-formal education is an answer. So because it keeps people trained, daily problem solving, and you can build a small community out of a little makerspace. I wouldn't say at every corner, but in every district. Yes, why not? A place where you can go and fix your clothes. Why not?
Right.
uh, to make less garbage. Why not? No?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is the direction in Europe, and it works especially for small entities, community based like we are. I don't know how I feel about the international. I think that let's remember that we were born from the hacker and open access, open software movement. Because without that movement, without that philosophy, I don't know if makerspaces spread that
Yeah.
much. And I think that bigger companies know that maker spaces, the makers movement is a fertile place to nurture new intelligences, the new brains, new talents, new professional, new capacities. And I think they are very good. They keep uh, helping, funding, and relating to the non-formal communities of tinkerer in general,
Yeah.
because there is how do you say in English, um, cervello comune. It's common brain. It's a collective brain, a
Right.
collective brain
Collective
that
brain.
works.
Collective brain.
It's a
Yes.
collective brain that works, and they know about it. Okay, machine learning is based on that. And you can apply this same approach to the people. We keep
To people.
needing people. I don't think that AI. I feel pretty confident about technology. I think we can manage that also. Come si dice, those new steps of technology like AI is, we can keep it in our hands. We need to know that, and people, bodies, people that cure other people are always be needed. They are going to be
That's
needed
right.
always. Sorry, it's a messy English because I was thinking while
No,
I was
no,
speaking. You God.
you're doing fine. You're doing fine. I've been talking to a lot of makers, talking to makerspace educators. People have been questioning, is AI going to be affecting how we make things, how we create things? And I think what you're discussing is a really important point because there's a yes and a no. It will become like a lot of things. We would Technology makes it easier for us to get to our goals faster. But the thing is that decision making, that goal setting, that creative inputs, that is still going to be very human.
It's the same for art and design. When I began architecture, I was supposed to draw with the hands. Technical drawing was made by hands. At some
Uh-huh.
point, we learned CAD.
Hmm.
And it's better if you know already how to do hand drawing.
Yes.
And the CAD is just aided design, it's
Right.
not design. And there is no machine that can substitute to our human sensitivity. We play a lot with AI in these days, in the chats of LoFoIo members, the inner members. We are exchanging songs made with the AI. We take the rules. We have the inner rules to run the space and the rules of the association. We try and songs out of it. Trap songs, rap songs, country songs. It's the funniest
Yeah.
thing. We keep
Very
playing
cool.
with technology and we still are in charge. I don't feel like we will have problems in that. Um, you don't have to use technology as an unnecessary weapon. uh,
Mhm.
I mean that it's an issue of democracy. Everybody has the right to make friends with technology, with the robots, because if you don't do that, you are a victim of the progress and you feel excluded, and the reaction is hostility. Mm? So I know that it is a privileged point of view because I could play with computers as a child, because I can play with technology now. I have this confidence. I studied architecture, so I feel this way with the technology, but not everybody can do that. It depends a lot on the school. It depends a lot on how science and technology were introduced to you as a child and while growing up. So I think, for example, this is an evolution of LoFoIo that finally is getting real these days. We go to the schools and we introduce the
Mm.
STEMs with our approach,
Right.
which doesn't substitute the official, the institutional one. It's just more fun. You see, for example,
Right.
four adults playing with coding and getting a new video game out of it. I think it's powerful. And I
Yeah.
think more than word, it's the example that you give that technology is something that, as you say, can make your life better if you keep it in your hand. It's just an extension of your body and of your mind.
Okay, right.
We all can be cyborg in this sense.
Yeah.
And you have the right as a person, as an individual, but also as society, as community, to be in charge
Yes.
of how technology taking these decisions and deciding how to use the technology. You have the right
Yeah.
to be in charge. To
Yeah.
be in charge, uh, you have to be informed.
I completely agree. And when I come across technology that yeah, I can't understand, it's an anecdote that basically at one point paper was new technology. That's kind of mind blowing to think about. But paper was considered technology. Everything that we do now was new technology at some point. And we have to try to be friends, but we still need to be in charge so that we can leverage it. Be scared of it or avoid it.
One thing we are come si dice, we are very committed to is not to use technology when it's not necessary,
Mm,
because if you make technology as an imposition, it doesn't help. Using Arduino to make some automation. Okay, if it's a game, it's a game. But if it's not needed, don't do that. Don't
right.
do that because it makes feel people excluded,
Mm,
and it's not necessary. Again, I go back to the Renaissance, or to my perspective on the Renaissance. If I want to have a good relationship with resources,
yeah.
I don't use technology unless it's necessary. I don't
Right.
need to invent anything new. I don't need to
Right.
put my name on something that already exists. I don't need
Yeah.
to reinvent the wheel, as we say. And I also don't need to insert technology when it's not needed.
Needed.
Some
Right.
things keep better done by
Done.
hand
Yeah.
nowadays, and you had to be aware when it's time to use the CNC instead of a handsaw, for example, a laser cut instead of a Japanese. So you have to choose because the answer can change. If you
Yes.
trust the process, the answer can change. And I don't want to feel a slave of the tradition, and I don't want to feel a slave of the
Oh,
innovation.
yeah. That is very powerful. Because people do get mixed up and they do get confused, and sometimes they then entrench themselves. They say, "No, no, I'm going to completely reject this new technology, or some people go, no, you're silly for rejecting new technology. You should embrace every new technology. Both of those are not right, and both of those are not wrong. It has to be appropriate. Yes.
So after 10 years of LoFoIo, I see how people relate to technology.
Yeah.
And one of the first questions you made is why so many women in LoFoIo? Okay. I think that one of the ingredients is that my relationship that resonates with a maker that stayed because
Mhm.
many makers left. And the makers that left are the ones that wanted medals for the notions. This is not how it works. A notion, knowledge and know-how has to be useful, has to be
Mhm.
applied, has to solve real problems
Problems.
or be funny. Eh? It has to be funny.
Yeah.
You don't get a medal or a certification. You are not coolest if you keep showing off showing off your knowledge, and it is very frequent in fab labs, usually run by males, all of them alpha males. And I am aggressive now. I know that I'm joking a little about that. I'm
Okay.
exaggerating, but to give the idea, many of the maker spaces I got to meet, got to know in past years before the COVID, they closed because it was all of a it was always a challenge between people showing off, showing off, showing off, and you keep doing that challenge, and the audience at some point gets bored.
They're tired of the one-upmanship. There's no end to it. It's not adding value to the audience because they know that we are never going to be able to do that, or we can't participate in this.
You resonate with the people that appreciate someone making the idol, making the influencer, making the big one, but it's actually boring. But
Mhm.
anyway, no, let's give room to everything. There is room for this approach, there is room for our
That,
approach.
yeah.
And I think that we stayed alive and we keep having members and we keep having people attending to the classes because we keep this welcoming attitude. Everybody's entitled to do a mistake, to break
Mhm.
something, to take a basic tool in the hand for the first time. It's so
Yeah.
empowering. When
It
you
is.
take
It
away
is.
the expectations, when you take away the identity and the ego from come si dice, dalla prestazione, from the experiment, everybody can be empowered and can have fun. At
That's
least this
right.
is us. This
No,
works.
I do agree and I understand what you're saying. You did talk about going into schools. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you're trying to achieve there?
It's a good question. So you are my coach now, my
Okay.
motivational coach, because you always have to ask yourself what's the reward. Okay, the point into getting into the schools now is that we really want to have an impact. In these last years, especially since the pandemic, too many times it occurred this thing that families with teenagers that are at risk to abandon the school, to drop out without motivations. They don't go out of bed. They are not apparently interested in anything. But one time, my son told me that he loves wood, that he would love to be a carpenter, and nobody at school is making him at least try a
Right.
crafting or
Right.
anything. Do you think you could welcome my son or my daughter? Because I feel like she could be interested in it, and it could be a reaction to the bore and to the lack of motivation. When you hear one, 10, 100 of these stories and you
Mm.
feel the impotence because I cannot ask to every family the fee, to pay what's needed to make it run. Schools are supposed to make people make this experience in the fertile years,
Yes.
in okay, in childhood, but especially when they are teenagers. The answer has to be collective to be effective. So taking the experience and the mindset and the skills and tools of LoFoIo in the schools is in my opinion, in our opinion, because this is shared in the team, it's the way to make those kids meet the
Of course.
crafting professions, for example, in one delicate and fertile time of their life when they are about to make choice. And the adults tend to project something that can be toxic, which is expectations, which is a rigid idea of career. You may discover that wood restoration is your talent or is your call. But you cannot uncover that, you cannot discover that unless you make a little trial. And the only trial that's possible here, also because of legal issues, insurance issues, you cannot make a trial because nobody wants to take the responsibility to give a so into the hands of a teenager. I do that. I take this responsibility for a small numbers at a time, because nobody takes those responsibilities. You cannot make a trial, for example, as a wood restorator, unless you subscribe 3-year classes in the special school. This is good, but we want to offer a welcoming point, a door, a red carpet also to people, newbies, kids that feel attracted by the handwork,
Right.
and they don't never get the occasion to try. We don't have the most of us don't have the grandfather with the tools teaching you how to nail, how to hammer a nail.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work this way here.
No.
Nobody shares this kind of knowledge, especially if you are a woman. I organized a welding workshop here for a woman, for a girl, a young woman. Her father and her uncle and her grandfather were blacksmiths, but they kept refusing to teach the girl how to weld. And this is stupid because girls are actually good welders. And this
Yeah.
is not a matter of power of.
Or gender or any more.
But anyway, getting to the kids in this phase, in this time of their lives, can be very fertile.
Mhm.
Also because it can be welcoming for people that get usually bad grades at school. For example, lack of attention.
Yeah.
Maybe they have just a different mindset, different
Mhm.
approach.
Different approach.
What's now tagged as deficit attentivo, a form of autism, of lack of attention.
Yes, we call it attention deficit disorder.
And we use the same acronym you use it, and it, yeah, I know it can be true most of times, but
Yes.
many times it happens because they get evaluated with criteria that are too rigid, too strict, too narrow. And the same people that couldn't pay attention to a whole mathematic lesson or to a whole literature lesson can be totally into a whole hour of woodworking. It's
You mean, yeah,
precious.
you can keep their focus and their attention. And I have a quick story to tell you about this. When I was working with kids, I learned this very quickly. We were teaching an older child, about 8 or 9 years old, but their parent and the younger sibling, who was also a boy, 5 years old, would come. And so the 5 year old would always get very fidgety. So the mom said to me, "Can you teach him as well?" I don't know. How do I keep their attention? And I said, okay, let me try. So when we made him sit in a chair, and I was teaching him the basics of CAD, Tinkercad, uh, I tried to tell him, okay, this is what we're gonna do. But literally, the minute I put him on the chair, he did this. I'm bored. So I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be very difficult. I said, okay, I'm not gonna teach him anything. I said, okay, just watch what I'm doing. So I just dragged the cube, and then I said, okay, we're gonna print it. And in like about 5, 6 minutes, the cube was in his hand, right? And if you've used Tinkercad, you know what I'm talking about. It's a simple print, like took a couple of minutes. But just that action completely changed his thought process. He was like, I think the penny for him dropped when he realized whatever I create on screen, I can actually get it in physical transformed. He started making lots of things with the cube. I mean, it didn't matter, right?
Che
That he was
spettacolo.
trying to make like a wheel, he made a truck. It got to a point where he was like, in first 5 to 10 seconds, he would say, I'm bored, he wanted to go. Now it was like, I want to stay for another half an hour. And this is a 5-year-old. So it was a very interesting for me to see that transformation. And even the mom was like, I can't believe how focused he is, because he was like, we can't get him to focus on a single task for more than 5 or 10 minutes. And here he is spending almost an hour and not wanting to stop. Making has that power. It has that power to keep a person's attention and engagement and brain ticking. Yeah.
Also, because reality gives you the feedback.
Yes.
This is it. This is
Uh,
fascinating. The point where virtual becomes real and real becomes virtual and can travel across across the internet, wherever. This is the most interesting thing. The
yeah.
switching point between virtuality and reality, it keeps fascinating. And I
Yes.
don't want to say in a word that's only virtual. I don't want to say in a word that's only material. I like to put myself in the point where you make things real and you get punched by reality because reality and the process of making things can really kick
Yes.
you
Yes. Yes.
badly.
Happens.
But if you allow yourself to make mistakes and be kicked with the invention you thought it was perfect, and it works also for organizations and people and couples and families, if you let yourself be kicked every now and then, not every day, you learn a lot. It's a
Yeah.
superpower you get. It's a
That's
superpower you get.
all right, Francesca. Thank you so much. It was great talking with you. Thank you so much for sharing what you're doing at the Makerspace. Again, thank you very much for being on the podcast.
Oh, thank you for making such interesting questions, for understanding that experience that much. It's very resonating. And this is something very special of being into a makerspace in Florence, at least, because many travelers come from abroad. And the first thing, if they are makers at home, the first thing they search on the Google map, it's actually a makerspace or a fab lab. So they come here, we don't know each other, and they begin talking as we are friends since forever because we share a mindset and a basic language, and we always have something to share, always
Yep.
an
Yep.
interesting story to share.
Yep.
Do you have the Ford? Do you have the 3D printer? How do you print? And this curiosity that you keep with yourself, even if you are a professional or an older person, this is something that bonds us, and it's international
Yes.
language that we share. This is
I
something very
totally
special
agree.
that happens here a lot. So people looking at the podcast, listen to the podcast, search for LoFoIo Makerspace when you come to Italy, when you
Yeah.
come to Tuscany and Florence, find us. We open the doors, we share the stories, and you share yours, and it's always a beautiful meeting.